Hey CBC, glad to see you. Pastor Brad here, excited that you're joining us for our daily Bible reading. Today our passage is found in Matthew chapter 6, starting in verse 5 all the way through verse 13, and join me as we read it. Jesus says, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep on babbling like pagans, for they think they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. This, then, is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." For some of you, I'm sure that passage sounded super familiar. And this teaching from Jesus comes right in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount has some of the most important teachings, the most life-changing stuff about our relationship with God are in those words that Jesus gives us. And there's a few things that I want to pull from the passage today. The first one is the context in what Jesus is talking. What he's doing when he's talking about this stuff is he's exposing the Pharisees, the religious rulers, the hypocrisy that existed in their faith at the time. That when they prayed in public, when they helped someone, when they were fasting, whatever the action they were engaging in, they did it for themselves. It was self-righteousness. They weren't doing it because they loved God. They were doing it so that people could see them and go, "Oh, look at that person. Look what he's doing. He's so faithful. He loves God so much." And Jesus actually says, no, don't be like them. Don't do it like that. He says that a couple times, actually. Now, the other principle that I want to pull out is when Jesus brings to us how essential prayer is to our relationship with God. But he also demystifies it a little bit here. That he reminds us, like, God knows us and he knows what's on our hearts even before we say a word to God, before we even start to utter our requests. To me, hearing that, it removes all the pressure of communicating with the God of the universe. Right? It doesn't seem as scary when put like that God already knows what's on my heart. God already knows what's in my mind. And yet he still wants to hear from me. Now notice in the actual Lord's Prayer that this is both a model and a liturgy for us that we can engage in. The prayer itself, it's brief, it's simple, and yet it's comprehensive. I think Jesus knew what he was doing. See, of the 6 petitions that Jesus makes, the first 3 are directed towards God. It recognizes who God is. It recognizes his power. It recognizes his awesomeness. And then there are 3 other petitions that Jesus makes that are directed towards what we need as people, what we need as humans. And so it's okay to ask God things, partly because he already knows what's on our hearts and what's on our minds. See, Jesus' big point in this moment is that every time you pray, it is an act of worship given to God. But it's something that we also get to participate in with God. It's kind of different. It's special. It's not just something we have to give to God. We actually get to do it with God at any point that we want. That line of communication is always open. So here's my invite to you. This video is about to end. I want you to go back. If you haven't already, go back to Jesus' prayer. Go back to that passage, the Lord's Prayer. And whether you're with your family, you're by yourself, engage with it again. But this time, I want you to take your time. I want you to drown out the noise. I want you to drown out the distraction. You might have 1,000 things on your list to do, and those are important, and you got to get those done. But it's just as equally as important to say this prayer like you've never heard it before, that you're saying it for the first time. Engage with it with a new spirit. Here's a moment where you can actually give an act of worship to the God of the universe. Focus on the words you're saying. Focus on who God is. What are the specific needs that you have? What is the daily bread that you need to be able to make it to the end of today? What's so cool about prayer is this is a direct line of communication to the creator of the universe. And what you also need to know is that even though he's the creator of the universe, he actually wants to hear your voice. He wants to hear from you. He wants to communicate with you. How awesome is that? So I'm excited. I'm hoping that this is maybe a different kind of moment as you engage in your relationship with God, that you worship with God in a new way through prayer. Praying for you guys as we continue in quarantine. Love you guys. See you soon. Hope you have a great day. God bless.